Hey fam, welcome to Sativa Sean Tips. Um, Today I'm going to talk, as you can see, no notes. Um, I'm going to try and stay on topic because I've had a very long boxing career. I put over there, that's the number of fights I've had, and that's the number of years that I competed. I'm still competing. So I have a lot of stories, and I know a lot of people. And like I said, anything I say, you guys can ask anybody. Y'all can go see, call Floyd. Hey, whatever name I mention, call him. Say, man, is that true? Y'all know Enrico Sean Smith? They'll be like, yeah, I know that motherfucker. Anyway, I'm trying not to be hyperbolic. I just wanted this to be an organic tale, like I would tell if we're sitting in a barbecue. Okay, but before I do that, I just want to make a shout out to Joshua and Chino. I just met them. There's a great African church here called First Love. They're over at BEH. I think it's 241. And we just had a great service. I mean, they're great Africans. And, there's a misconception about Muslims that we don't believe in Jesus. And nothing could be farther from the truth. Jesus, peace be upon him, is one of our prophets. And we, of course, do believe in Jesus. And that's one of the many misperceptions about Muslims that people don't know. But when I saw a flyer for an African congregation here on campus, I just stopped in to say hi. And they're just outstanding people. So if you're African, or my friends at the African Alliance, especially my boys from Ghana, even though your jollof rice ain't as good as Nigeria. See, Nigerian jollof, Ghanaian jollof. Okay, all right. Anyway, so okay, let's talk about Floyd. Okay, all right. So I want to talk about a few things that I would just tell anybody if I was talking about Floyd Mayweather. Yes, we fought together on a few trips, more than a few actually. We were at the National Golden Gloves in Milwaukee together as a team. He was my teammate. He was either 106 or 112. And I was 156 pounds. And he was always a nice guy. I mean, he's really chill. I mean, he stayed to himself. And, he was coming up. He was a youngster. I had already been fighting internationally for about 5 years before I met Floyd, because he had just moved from Flint, Michigan. And I know Floyd Mayweather Sr. too. He's a good guy, man. I think Floyd was in the joint at the time. No shame in that. I was in the joint too. So, I didn't see Floyd till after I was already fighting for the USA or fighting internationally for 5 years. I'd already fought against Mexico, Canada, etc. Probably 4 times with Canada by that time. But it doesn't matter. Okay, the point is we're here to talk about Floyd. Okay, there's some things people need to know about Floyd Mayweather. He was a great guy too, really funny, practical joker. Always had a great sense of humor. A little to himself because he was a youngster. At least to me, because he's 5 years younger than I am. And he was the lighter weight class. But, he was cool, man. I mean, I want to talk about a few things. And I think there's a lot we can learn about Floyd Mayweather Jr.'s life. Okay? And like I said, I'm going to just stick on Floyd because, man, there's so many great world champions that I was able to compete with, man. I sometimes feel like I'm like the luckiest man on the planet, man. I really do feel like that. But let's talk about Floyd because he's turned out to be, who he is today. And I'll talk to you about my feelings as to why he is the way he is. Okay, number one. You ready for this? Floyd is probably not the best Mayweather. I say that because, man, this dude comes from a fighting family. His whole family could fight. I mean, I don't think there's not a Mayweather that knows how to throw paws, man. Before Floyd, I know, unfortunately, I think the best Mayweather, and I never seen him fight, but I heard stories. The best Mayweather might be Floyd Mayweather Sr. I don't know, though, but I mean, I know him personally now, and I mean, he's an older guy, but even, you know, even in his old age, you punch him in the stomach, it's like hitting steel, you know? And he was, I mean, he still looks great. You know, there's a picture of me and him watching the fights at Sam's Town. That's me and him, a couple other people watching the fights. That's after I got out the pen. But anyway, Floyd was not the best Mayweather. He has a lot of Mayweather-ish traits, and he picked up a lot. His lineage, he's like, in Flint, Michigan, he'd be like boxing royalty. And ideally, he's like boxing royalty now in Las Vegas, but the best Mayweather was probably his father, but I don't know that to be sure. But I'll tell you who was really, really good, amazing, was Roger Mayweather. You know, rest in peace. He was a great fighter. What a champion he was, man. He was a world champion, and he fought Julio Cesar Chavez. I'm not going to say a lot of names because a lot of people watch this aren't boxers, but he was one of the greats. Okay, so I'll show you Roger Mayweather there. And I trained alongside Roger Mayweather before Floyd even got here. And so I was, you know, I remember this much. He was world champion when I was training at the gym, and nobody could whoop Roger's ass. Roger whooped everyone's ass. Anyone walked in there, Roger whooped their ass. Anybody Roger got in the ring with, got their ass whooped. Okay? So I had won my first 23 fights. I was walking through people, man. I was beating them down. And then my trainer, Lee Osborne, says, hey, man, he goes, Enrico, I want to put you in there with Roger. And, you know, being an up-and-coming fighter with international experience, I was like, man, I got you. So I said to myself, I'm going to get in there, and I'm going to show Roger some moves he ain't never seen. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to get in there and, you know, I got in the ring with Roger Mayweather. Bell rang. I'll never forget this for as long as I live, man. Undefeated amateur prospect. I'd already been to like probably 6 camps, USA camps. And I was always like, you know, I did good. I'm not going to brag on myself, but I got in there and I was tracing him. I was watching him, tracing him. I was slipping. And he was moving around the ring, you know, real relaxed. And you want to talk about shoulder rolls? I was jabbing Roger Mayweather. I got him in the corner, and I said to myself, that's it. You done now, fool. I got him right where I want him. I must have thrown, I want to make sure I'm not lying. I threw like 15 punches. And ain't nan one of them motherfuckers landed. He was in front of me, but he was not in front of me. I kept swinging and ain't nothing landing, man. He was right in front of me, but his shoulder rolling and his movement was so beautiful. It was like he was reading my mind. It was probably the most embarrassing day of my young boxing career. It was really humbling. And then I saw a huge flash of light. It was his right hand. I saw his right hand on the way back, and I stumbled backward. I forgot what age I was at that time. Probably 17. I don't know, 18. I don't know. But man, my trainer stepped in and goes, that's enough. That's Roger Mayweather. That was a bad motherfucker, man. Ain't nobody could fight like Roger Mayweather. He was, you know, the only thing Roger Mayweather was, he had really skinny legs. And when you hit him in his chin, his legs gave out because he had a big frame up top, but his legs were skinny. So whenever he got hit, you know, if he got hit really hard by somebody that had to be really good, you know, his chin wasn't as probably not as good as Floyd's. Floyd has a really perfect physique for fighting. Anyway, enough of that. So yeah, I traded blows with him, and I did probably 2 more rounds after that. But he humbled me, man. He showed me there's levels to the game. And the second 2 rounds wasn't any better, but I think he didn't use his right hand at all. He only used his jab. And I probably could count on one hand how many times I landed a punch. I sure as hell never hit him clean. And this was me doing my best. I don't ever not do my best. So that was Roger Mayweather. And then Jeff Mayweather came, and Jeff Mayweather was just as good, but Jeff Mayweather had soft hands. He also kept fracturing his knuckles. Now, I sparred with Jeff Mayweather probably, I'd say 50 rounds. 50 rounds. So that means we got together and we threw paws on each other probably on 10 separate occasions, 5 rounds each. That makes sense. All right. And he could fight too. Not like Roger. But yeah, I threw blows with him, and he was no cupcake either. But he and I were more even, so we got it in. So we had some really good sparring. Okay. But Floyd is probably not the best Mayweather. I think the best Mayweather is either Roger or his father, Floyd Sr. But either way, he comes from fighting lineage. This kid was born to be champion, but he didn't know it at the time, and neither did we. Okay, so Floyd was not the best Mayweather. Even when he showed up and we saw him boxing, I saw him fight, and I was like, all right, he's good. He's all right. Fight like a Mayweather. He looked like a Mayweather. Sure as I look like him. All the Mayweathers look alike. Even though I will say, Floyd probably the prettiest of the Mayweathers. All right, I'll give him that too. Okay. All right. Okay. Number two. Okay. I love this stuff. I'll just say nobody thought Floyd was going to go to the Olympics, including me. Nobody. 2 words. Auggie Sanchez. Auggie Sanchez. Auggie Sanchez was the prodigy of Las Vegas. He won everything there was to win. He won the Golden Gloves, and so did Floyd, lighter weight class. But he had also Fernando Sanchez, Juan Sanchez's brothers. Auggie Sanchez was a prodigy. He beat everyone there was to beat. And nobody thought that Floyd could beat Auggie Sanchez. Auggie Sanchez, and there's me and him at the reunion probably 3 or 4 years ago. Actually, he went on to coach the Olympic team in 2012, the Olympic boxing team in Brazil. But Auggie Sanchez was the guy that was pretty much set to go to the Olympics. As a matter of fact, I fought with Floyd, USA Canada, USA Ireland, 3 U.S. championships, also the Pan American trials. I went to the Pan Am trials, and Auggie was there too. And Floyd was fighting a guy named Carlos Navarro. And Floyd had not qualified for the Pan Am trials, so they were going to fight each other to qualify to go to the Pan Am trials. I had already qualified, so had Auggie. So they had a fight between Carlos Navarro and Floyd Mayweather. And man, Carlos whooped his ass. Ain't no shame in it, man. But Carlos beat him from ring post to ring post. Ring post to ring post for 3 rounds, man. It was a shutout. It was a shutout. Okay? So, he wasn't able to compete in the Pan Am trials, but we had a lot of respect for him because, he came and fought. I don't know if he trained for that fight because he didn't seem to be all the way there. But, nobody thought he was going to make it to the Olympics, man. He had also lost to my friend Anufo Bravo. And then after the Pan Am trials, I went off to qualify for the Olympics in Samoa. And Floyd was still in the U.S. And then I found out that Auggie had beat Floyd at the U.S. championships. And I think Floyd is ranked number 9. I think I have rankings of it. If not, I'll show some rankings. But nobody thought he was going to go to the Olympics. Nobody believed that Floyd Mayweather was going to go to the Olympics. Okay? I saw him, for the few times I saw him fight, I saw him lose more than I saw him win. And he wasn't really a standout on the U.S. team. He was just Floyd. He was a Mayweather. And that in of itself demands respect. Because the Mayweather bloodline is the Mayweather bloodline. Okay? Nobody believed in Mayweather, except Floyd. Y'all got to remember that. Like, he probably went to some really dark places, man. Because losing to Navarro, not qualifying for the Pan Am trials a year before the Olympics, and then going to the U.S. championships and losing to Auggie Sanchez. And by the way, Auggie Sanchez was the talk of the town in Vegas. He was a shoo-in for the Olympics. But one thing that Floyd did do was he was the best opponent for Auggie Sanchez at the U.S. championships. So in the Olympic in qualifying for the Olympic trials, which I've done 3 times, I tried to 4 times, I made it twice, was you have to fight your most noteworthy opponent if you beat him at the championships, and Floyd was Auggie Sanchez's most noteworthy opponent, and we thought to ourselves, man, ain't no chance he's going to beat Auggie. He's going to beat Auggie. And we were wrong. He beat Auggie twice at the Olympic trials, the box office. And that's how he got on the Olympic team, and everybody was shocked. Nobody that I know, except Floyd Mayweather, believed that Floyd Mayweather was going to beat Auggie Sanchez at the U.S. Olympic box office. We thought Auggie was going to the Olympics hands down. Everybody did, at least in my mind. Okay? All right, so nobody thought he was going to go to the Olympics, man. And there's a lesson in all this, okay? All right, okay. Number 3. I love talking boxing, man. I'm trying so hard to stay on topic. Number 3. I talked to my brother about this. It's possible. Floyd might be the best ever in boxing. And if y'all knew where he came from, man, y'all got to understand that Floyd didn't make the Olympic team until he did. And nobody thought he was going to make the Olympic team until he did. Okay? What that tells you is you have to believe in yourself, man. Don't let anybody ever tell you what you can or can't do, man. You're you, bro, or she or her, whatever your name is, whatever you go by. Never let anybody tell you who you're going to be. And I'll tell you why Floyd might be the best ever. I talked to my brother about this. Yes, he's undefeated, but that's not just it. He has his faculties. He has his brain. He still moves and communicates like a champion. He hasn't lost everything. He's had, at least that I can count, 2 over $120 million fights where he probably made $180 million. He was the highest paid athlete in the world probably 3 or 4 years. Probably in a row, I think. He does a lot for the community. He's got great teeth. He's always in shape. He's a great businessman from all accounts, from what I've seen and read and heard. And he has a big heart, you know. He has a lot of kids, and for everything I've heard about him, I saw him at the Palms the other day, probably 2 years ago. But he was surrounded by bodyguards, and I ain't really that kind of guy to bother somebody when they're trying to go see a movie. He probably don't get no private time, no how. But y'all can, you know, like I said, anybody can call Floyd. Y'all know, you know, Enrique. Like, I know that motherfucker. But he might be the best ever. He might be the best ever. Because of not only the fact that he's, now, yeah, there's times when I get so mad at him because I know he can knock the opponent out. But he and I both know fighters that have died in the ring. I won't say their names out of respect, but we also know fighters that have gone into comas and, you know, can't even walk anymore because of boxing. And I hate to say this, but boxing doesn't care about anybody but boxing. It's the sport you're in. It's just that it is what it is. And Floyd takes care of himself, and he takes care of his pocket, and he is the money team. I mean, he's done money fights that, I mean, nobody can even imagine. You can't even, the numbers that Floyd Mayweather's pulled down you can't even imagine. Okay, and he has a great talent. I mean, what happened to Floyd, I think, was he woke up and said, you know what? I may not be the best Mayweather. Nobody may think I'm going to make the Olympic team or be anything in boxing. But I'm going to be the best Floyd Mayweather I can be. And he became himself. He has his own style. He has his own moves. He has his own pizzazz. He has his own training method. I heard he runs with suit shoes on. He's never drank, doesn't do weed, doesn't smoke, doesn't do any of this nonsense. He trains religiously, but he trains whenever he feels like it. So he became a Floyd Mayweather. And I guess the lesson in Floyd's career, or Floyd's life, is don't try to be like anybody else, and don't worry about what other people think about you. And this is the danger about trying to be anybody but yourself, because if you're going to be somebody, if you're going to pretend to be somebody that you like, or pretend to be somebody you admire, well, then who's going to be you? And that's what Floyd did. I think Floyd became himself, and Floyd is a future billionaire, giver to the city, and a tremendous fighter. He's never been beat. He's never run out of gas. He's never lost a fight. Goddamn, motherfucker, he's hardly lost a round. Okay? So I think that's what we can take from Floyd's life. And by the way, I'll do other videos on some of the other champions I fought with, but it was a personal pleasure of my life to say that I've shared trips, shared camaraderie, shared teams, shared training camps, shared wins and losses with one of the greatest fighters that ever lived, Floyd Mayweather Jr. Okay? And it was an honor to fight alongside him and to watch him. And he makes me proud, man. He's done a lot for my city. You know I love Las Vegas more than anything. And Floyd puts his money where his mouth is. I mean, he sent Barry's boxing team to national tournaments many times. That's the team I used to fight for. And he does stuff that nobody talks about. He doesn't talk about it either. So, okay, so that's my experience fighting with Floyd Mayweather. I'm going to do some other boxing stuff in the future. And I love boxing. I love blood sport. You know that. I still fight. But yeah, that's Floyd, man. Floyd Floyd is an inspiration, and I think that's what you can take from Floyd's life. He was not the best Mayweather. He was the best Floyd. Nobody believed in him, I guarantee you. 99.9% of the U.S. boxing team did not see Floyd at the Olympics until he was. And then Floyd possibly is the best ever boxer, businessman that has ever lived and walked on the face of the earth. Thanks, guys. Thanks for sharing this story time with me. Take care. I love y'all. Take care.